Good morning and welcome to the Small Business University. My name is Kelly Leonard and I am thrilled to be your host this morning. Joining us in the television studio is a awesome group of small business owners and entrepreneurs from Montgomery and surrounding counties, and we're excited to have you join us through the online stream. We have the pleasure this morning of hosting Dwight Deneal, who is a small business liaison and government contracting professional, to share some strategies to help us to answer the question, are we ready for prime time? And so without further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage Mr. Dwight Deneal.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. All right, that's the energy I like. As Kelly mentioned, I'm Dwight Deneal. Preference for this presentation, I am not here in my official government capacity. The presentation and views brought to you are endorsed by me and me alone. I am not here in my official government capacity. So, as a show of hands, how many folks are active government contractors in the audience? Perfect. Well, guys, I'm going to try to sum up in about 12 to 15 minutes how you go from a subcontractor to a prime in the federal market space, okay? So what we're going to cover this morning, very briefly, the federal procurement budget cycle, the government stakeholder trifecta, the importance of RFIs, the federal buying trends, proposal capture strategy and matrix, in response to the RFP and RFQ, okay? So guys, if you're going to be successful, rule number one in the game is you have to understand the budget. We do about 2-year out planning for contracting opportunities. So what does that mean? So we're wrapping up, the federal government is wrapping up fiscal year 2015, meaning we're going into 2016 starting in October. There will be planning for fiscal year 2018 actions while we're operating in 2016. So for you to be successful in the market space, you have to understand the landscape and how we accurately plan for procurement actions. So if you're coming into the game, let's say you're coming in, it's year end right now, and I know there's this big myth out on the street that there are low-hanging fruit year-end opportunities. Well, guys, that's really not the case. I mean, the agencies really do budget accurately for procurement actions. Now, there might be some leftover hanging fruit money the closer we get to September, but the natural end of the game is those monies are probably going to be used on vehicles and not standalone contracts. So understanding the federal procurement budget cycle is critical as you begin to grow from subcontractor to prime in the federal market space. So the government stakeholder trifecta. So there are about 3 key customers in government folks that contractors really need to make themselves aware of and cultivate relationships with. And so the first one is your procurers, your contracting officials, your contract specialists. These are the folks, these are the middle agents, these are the folks that have legal authorization to sign their name on behalf of the United States government to bind them into a contractual agreement. The next ones are your influencers, your program managers, and your small business officer reps, folks like myself. These folks have decision-making and influence over the procurement process. And so you have to cultivate relationships with them so that they know you and trust you. And then the end user. Now, the end user might not actually be the program manager that is sponsoring this particular contract. It might be a technology specialist out of the OCIO office who just happens to be the designated contracting officer representative on the particular vehicle. And so there are 3 folks that you really have to learn how to cultivate the relationship. And I keep stressing relationship because this is a relationship business. At the end of the day, the government is not going to give out money, $5 million, to a company that they don't know. And so cultivating the right relationships with the government trifecta is going to help you get from subcontractor to prime in the federal market space. Responding to requests for information and what we call source assault notices. Guys, this is key. This right here is where the rubber meets the road for a determination on what the small business market can do and what you're capable of on any given procurement action. And I hear a lot of feedback from the small business community that, the RFIs are too cumbersome, or, we respond and we don't get a response back on, what we sent in around our capabilities. Well, one, the government is not required to give you a response on an RFI. If you go back and read the regulation FAR Part 10, it's just a request for information. We are not obligated to give you feedback on it. But I'm gonna tell you why it helps. When we get the RFIs back, we look at what came back and we make a determination on what the small business market is capable of. Are there 2 or more small businesses that are service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses that could potentially provide the end good or service for this particular need? And if that's the case, then those government trifecta folks will come together and they will make a determination whether this is a good fit to allow this to be a set-aside for a service-disabled veteran small business competition only. And so responding to the RFIs helps us make a true determination on what the small business community can and cannot do. So don't be surprised, guys, when you see things full and open, and 9 times out of 10, we didn't get any responses back from the small business community when we put an RFI out. And so what justification do we have, what market knowledge do we have that small business can perform this particular project when the opportunity presented itself and the community didn't respond to it, okay? Federal buying trends. Guys, you gotta be accessible. Multiple work contracts, government-wide acquisition contracts. This is where you really wanna hang your hat if you're trying to grow from subcontractor to prime. In today's federal market space, we're utilizing existing contracting vehicles to procure goods and services on an annual basis. The days of standalone contracts are few and far, and we like to issue task orders off of existing vehicles. And so vehicles like Alliant, NASA SOUP, the GSA schedules, all these things are where you want to figure out what makes sense for you as a business. And you can't be everywhere. Let me stress that. You can't be on every vehicle, or one, I don't know what you do as a business. So find the vehicles that are very much niche to the government customer that you're trying to market to, research it, and then go make yourself marketable to those government trifecta folks. Proposal capture and strategy. This is definitely things that successful prime contractors understand and they get early on. You have to have a clear strategy when you're going after a government contract. You have to have a clear understanding of the capital required for this contract. And I want to stress capital a little bit, because as a subcontractor, you don't really see it as much as a prime, but to take on a large-scale project and win that bid means you need to have the working capital for at least 60 days to pay folks day one ready when that contract begins. The government is not in the game of keeping small businesses afloat. Net 30 for invoicing. And some agencies don't really pay within 30 days on certain contracts. So you guys have to have the working capital, because when that contract becomes effective, the government has expectations that you will send those employees, if it's a service contract, or you will provide that end product within the deliverable time frame, which is outlined in that contract. So definitely have an understanding of the working capital needed to grow from subcontractor to prime. And then define a compliance matrix. The Shipley method, if folks aren't aware, that is a great method out there that industry is using for proposal capture strategy. You have to really have things built out, guys, at all levels, from a development lead to a technical lead to a proposal manager, in a price to win, guys. You guys know your market. You know what are the G&A rates, overhead rates that are applicable for your particular industries. Know your market and price yourself to win. Don't price yourself to lose, and when I say lose, I mean lose money by pricing low and getting a contract. because ultimately that's going to hurt you as a business. And what we don't want is for businesses to price low and end up taking a contract where they're making little to no money off of, because that's not helping anybody. Getting it right, responding to the RFP. It is critical when you go after contracts as a prime that you understand the solicitation documentation, that you understand the clauses that are in that solicitation. And let me backtrack. If you're going to be successful in federal contracting, someone on your staff, whether it be the principal of the firm or one of your senior leads or analysts, needs to understand federal acquisition regulation, and they need to understand it code. Why? Because those are the rules that protect you. And those are the rules that you have to abide by. Understanding your competitors. If you're a business owner and you're a prime contractor, you have to understand your competitors. Who's doing what? Who's probably going to submit a bid on this? What are their strengths? What other contracts have they won for similar-like service in this space? All this information is stuff that you have to understand when submitting a response to an RFP or an RFQ. Your technical approach, guys, should really be focused on outcome and impact base. Do not regurgitate the statement of work or statement objective in a response to an RFP. We can do that on our own. We put it together. So really become innovative in your proposal solution to propose things that are really going to solve our pain points and problems that are outlined in that particular statement of work or statement of objective. Highlight applicable past performance projects. You guys have done successful things, whether it be in the commercial space or in other government contracts at the state, local, federal level. Highlight those projects and show how those projects are applicable to this particular requirement. What problems did you solve? What were the outcomes? What did the customer say about you? If you have already prime performance, put a copy of your CPARS report in there. And again, establish a price to win. Do not price yourself out of a contract or price yourself to where you get a contract and you make no money off of it. So what does it all boil down to? Success. What do I believe success equals from growing from a subcontractor to a prime in the federal market space? You as a business, you understand your core competencies. You understand them well. You can articulate them. Don't have 60 NAICS codes on your capability statement. That, to me, you're not a focal. You have no focus as a business. So understand your core competencies and your strengths and be able to articulate them to the government trifecta. Understand the customer needs. Guys, do your research. Do your homework. Really research a particular federal agency or sub-agency of a federal agency to understand what their mission is and what they buy, so you can articulate how your competencies marry with their needs to help solve their problems. Relationships. This is a relationship business. Cultivate the relationships with the right individuals so that you are positioned for the right opportunities. Multiple work vehicles. Stress that. Guys, you got to be accessible, and you have to understand how these agencies are buying and where they go buy it at on a regular and ongoing basis. You have to respond to open market procurements. Even things that aren't set aside for small businesses, guys, you can compete with the big guys. You can go stand toe-to-toe, proposal with the Lockheeds, and I've seen vendors win. You can do it. Relatable prime contracting past performance. I've already stressed that. Find the right projects that are applicable to a particular RFP that you're responding to and highlight them. Understand the right teaming arrangements. If you have relationships with other smalls or with large businesses, understand how those relationships and those teams and arrangements are going to position you to win that particular contracting opportunity. And lastly, be a problem solver, be an innovator. don't regurgitate the statement of work. Really propose solutions to our problems that we have listed, or our statement of objectives that we've listed in our statement of work or statement of objectives. Questions?
Hi, my name is Javelle Lane from Senat Consulting. You mentioned the importance of having somebody on staff that knows the FAR regulations, both for individuals or organizations going off the opportunities in the IC community or defense. How different is the DFAR from the FAR, or is it different at all?
Well, the DFAR is a deviation of the FAR. So the Federal Acquisition Regulation, the FAR, is the overarching governing rule book for the acquisition process in the federal space. The Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation is a subset deviation of the FAR that is specifically tailored for defense acquisition. And so the way it works, where the FAR will always trump any deviation depending upon what the FAR says and what that deviation says. So it's understanding, defense contracting, but also understanding the FAR as well. So if you're in a defense space or you're going after defense contracts, yeah, you definitely have to understand the DFAR too. And the DFAR is a little more detailed. And I can speak on that because I used to be a CO for defense. So.
Good morning, Dwight.
Good morning.
Jerome Leonard here. I have a story and a question, real short.
Okay.
A colleague of mine works at Veterans Administration, told me that there were a number of set-aside contracts that went unawarded because the agency couldn't find competent providers and suppliers. So my question is, how do we small business owners identify those contracts that are sole source and that we would have the best opportunity to secure?
Okay, so every agency that has a appropriated budget, I believe over 50 million, and don't quote me on that, is required by law to publish a forecast. And so pretty much every major executive agency, including the Defense Department, Health and Human Services, Department of Labor, they are required to publish a forecast. And in that forecast, it is supposed to outline the projected opportunities in their acquisition strategies behind them. And so targeting and looking at that forecast and seeing where those projected opportunities are from a set-aside standpoint, that's where the industry can collaborate together to say, hey, we as a hub zone business industry, we're targeting all of these and we're going to make sure that we respond accordingly, not only to the RFIs that are posted out there, but to the RFQs and RFPs around this so that we can drive these acquisition or these particular procurements to our particular subset and category set-asides. But the reality is, and I'm just to be honest, there's not a lot of collaboration out there, guys. There's not. And so what will help us in the process is if you guys do collaborate, you do talk. There's no harm in talking and saying, hey, my company's probably going to target this. I know you guys fit it too. Let's target it and let's see who wins. You got to collaborate. Otherwise, if you don't, that particular requirement may end up full and open. And don't be surprised if it does. So I hope I answered your question.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys?
Hi, Dwight. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Cindy Pena, and I have a video production company, and not looking to do prime contracting so much, but subcontracting. The last thing you mentioned was problem solving. And in the past, I've come across situations where when you give out information as to how you would solve a problem and what products and services you would provide, you're really giving away intellectual property. So there's a fine line between wanting to give great ideas, but not wanting to give too much information that somebody else can walk away with. Can you explain what that fine line is for you?
Yeah, not a problem. So it depends on where we're at in the acquisition process. If you're giving out intellectual property that is proprietary to your particular company and it's in a response to an RFP, you are protected by several federal acquisition regulation clauses that will be listed in that RFP that protects intellectual property rights and data property rights for particular businesses. Now, if you're responding to a request for information or source assault notice, a little different. So not really so much that protects you in that space because what we're looking for is industry capabilities and what you're providing. Depends on where we are in the acquisition process, okay? Any other questions? Don't be shy.
They're probably saving all their questions for when you go off stage and are trying to hurry out to get to your job. But Dwight, I definitely want to thank you. The two words that he said this morning that really stuck out to me are relationship and collaboration. And certainly as small business owners and entrepreneurs, we know the value of collaborating with one another, supporting each other. I know intuitively we think of this whole competitive, oh, that's my competition, so I don't want to necessarily share information or explore opportunities together. But one of the things that resonated with me was the fact that we need to think out beyond that and really look at organizations and companies that we can collaborate with and to build relationships inside of the federal government as well. I know you all aren't really known as being networkers per se, but again, making sure that we can take advantage of opportunities like the one this morning. I'm sure Dwight has cards with him that he'd be happy to share with each of you. I'm putting them out there like that. But then also I will make sure, assuming you all registered, I'll make sure that each of you get a copy of the presentation as well. And so Dwight, I definitely want to thank you for coming out this morning and sharing that information. And thank each of you online that streamed with us this morning. Hopefully you got a nugget or two that was valuable for you to help you to go from subcontracting to priming. And along those lines around relationships and collaboration, next month, please join us here for the Small Business University, August 13th. Here, bright and early again, where we will have Glenn Garnes, who is the founder of the Village Connector community. And so, as we talk about relationships and connecting, he's going to be sharing with us the art of the connection. And for anyone that knows Glenn Garnes, you know that he is a connector. And so you're going to get this information from a gentleman that knows how to help you to best leverage and maximize the connections that you make. And so with that, I just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here this morning, as well as those of you online. Thank you again. Make it a productive day, and we look forward to joining you. Oh, you know what? One other thing. I want to make sure that I do not forget to thank our sponsors, Mid-Atlantic Federal Credit Union. For those of you that streamed live with us, you missed a really important announcement, but stay tuned. Some great news coming out of Mid-Atlantic Federal Credit Union that's really designed to help you and your business to maximize opportunities, to gain access to some working capital to help you to grow your business. So thank you to Mid-Atlantic Federal Credit Union, and thank you to Montgomery Community Media for being our host of this monthly gathering. So with that, have a great day, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. Take care.